Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Tonight, my guest is Joshua Shapiro. Before I bring him on, I want to remind you that you can, of course, always get new regular episodes free on Rokfin, Odysee, and all podcast platforms. Check us out on Rokfin. This is where you will get our premium content that you can't get anywhere else. You also get our regular shows and all of the amazing premium content from every creator there on Rokfin. You can get a free account and check out everything it has to offer. We have a merch store with t-shirts, bags, stickers. Be sure and check that out. And finally, if you're reaching a stage in life like myself where you're getting a few of those gray hairs, a little less energy, check out C60 Purple Power, which may be the most powerful antioxidant known to man. It has helped me immensely with inflammation, energy, well-being, sleep. The list goes on and on. You can even get C60 for your pets, so your pets can feel amazing too. Click the link in the description and you get 10% off your order, plus free shipping. Tonight I want to welcome to the show Joshua Shapiro. He has been involved with the crystal skulls since 1983, when he saw one made out of amethyst in Northern California. Since Katrina had entered his life in the early spring of 2009, they have been working closely together. The explorers offer various crystal skull presentations, lectures, and workshops to the public, as well as a unique type of private consultation with their personal skulls that combines their individual spiritual and creative talents. He is the author of various books, including his first book about the crystal skulls entitled Mysteries of the Crystal Skulls Revealed, written jointly with Sandra Bowen and the late Fr. Nick Nocerino. He has released various versions of his new book, Journeys of the Crystal Skull Explorers. Joshua, welcome. How are you doing tonight?
I'm feeling totally forbidden right now.
Oh, that's the right state of mind to be right now. Awesome. Well, welcome. I've been looking forward to tonight. I have always found crystal skulls very fascinating, and this is actually the first time I've had a guest to speak about them out of all the years that I've done this show. I really don't know that much myself besides, what I've seen on your mainstream history and discovery and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to learning all about this tonight myself, as well as we got some more surprises toward the end of the show that we're going to be talking about. I don't want to give too much away about that, but it's going to be a very fascinating conversation. Now, Joshua, this is your first time on my show. I'd love to hear all about what got you into these fields of research about crystal skulls and all the strangeness surrounding it.
Well, I think it's because of finding out the essence of who I am, which I've started talking about, which is what's called a cosmic wanderer. And this term came up with books written in the 1950s by George Hunt Williamson, who was an early UFO contactee. I remember when I read his book, Other Tongues, Other Flesh, which is very difficult to find. And I have a copy of it somewhere. I've moved so many times, I don't know where all my things are anymore. But he was talking about that it's kind of like a group, galactic beings who go from world to world and uplift them into the light. So I'm feeling inspired to talk about that because that to me explains the essence of who I am and why I'm going to be drawn, to look at anything of a paranormal nature, of a spiritual nature, of a controversial nature. So it was like going back into the 1980s when I started this. So that means almost 40 years I've been involved, which is hard to believe, but it has been that long. It just came on my path. I mean, like everyone else in the 1980s, I had watched Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, where he has the Mitchell Hedges skull rotating in the beginning of his show. And then he had an episode where the Mitchell Hedges skull meets the crystal skull in the British Museum, which is still there. They're very much similar in their design. So, we can talk about that later. But, I never thought that this would be something I would be involved with. So basically what got me started was I met one, and I'll show your audience. I have one of our personal ones here so people could see what I'm talking about. So we're speaking about here a skull-like object made from different types of gemstones. Now, in the 1980s, And I'm going to have to put him down here shortly because he's about 8 or 9 pounds, and
Yeah,
my
sure.
muscles are not as good at 66 as they used to be.
Yeah, but he's
But
beautiful there. He's very beautiful.
yeah, yeah, he was gifted to us. Well, I'll explain about him in a moment here. But so I met one made from amethyst quartz crystal, and this was at my friend's bookshop in San Jose, California, around my birthday, April 1983. So prior to that, I knew about them, but I didn't have interest to be to explore them. But after I met this girl, first in a picture and then in real life, it's like something shifted inside of me. Now, what I can say is true of all of us who are following a spiritual path is there comes a moment in time where first you get activated, and it's like, I got to know everything about that. So I was already past that moment, because when I was in Chicago in the 70s, I was, meeting people and going to groups and everything, researching it. So I think, like, when I was probably, I don't know how old you are, but say in my late 20s, I was being prepared for my work. And then I remember um, gosh, I can't remember. I think it was 1980. I traveled on faith to California, where all this stuff was going on there. And I met all kinds of people. And then I wrote my first book, Journeys of an Aquarian Age Networker, which came out in 83, I guess. So, no, it came out in 81, or no, 82. See, I can't remember. There's too many things that have gone on
Yeah, you've gotten
over
so
this
much
time.
going on.
Right. So 82 it came out, and then 83 is when I met the Crystal Skull. What I'm saying is, as you go through life, you have these moments where you have a special experience that activates something inside of you. So this amethyst skull, which is known today by the name of Ami, which was like a 8-pound amethyst skull that I'm trying to remember the history of it. Uh, a Mayan priest brought it to the United States. I guess it was found in Mexico, dug in the ground, purportedly by one of the ancient Mayan ruins. So when I saw the pictures of it, it was like, wow, that's a new experience. This is amazing. Nobody knows about this crystal skull. I'm an Aries, so that's really cool. When something comes up that not a lot of people know about, it gets me even more excited. But the thing is I had what I call my inner and outer earthquake experiences around this picture. First, there was an earthquake in Kalinga, California, which is about 150 miles south. So the picture of the amethyst skull I'm looking at is vibrating on the table. And then, first, when I looked at the picture, I felt an inner earthquake inside of me. And then the real earthquake happened. Okay.
Wow.
So it's like, Joshua, pay attention. There's something going on here. You got to find out what this is. But then, I'll use this French word, the damn picture starts talking to me. Okay. And I hear the skull saying to me, okay, now that we're here, what are you going to do about it? I'm returning. We're returning. It was like like this skull was representing many skulls. We are returning to help humanity to create world peace. So now that what are you going to do about it? And then magically, I was gifted this picture, which I could show other people. But then I was also invited to this, what was it? Art gallery, I guess, in San Jose, where the actual skull was stored in a vault there. And they brought it out. And then I got to see the thing. Okay. So it's one thing you see a picture of it, but then when you're in the presence of it, that's pretty amazing. So they said, okay, you can go ahead and touch the skull. So I don't know why I'm left-handed, but my right hand went and touched the top part of the skull. And I felt this vibrational energy that just went all the way up my arm until my shoulder. And then I had in my mind's eye, now I'm not strong with inner vision, but I do see things. Okay. I mean, because I can remember and see to some degree, it's like in grayscale and not very detailed, where there are people who have, I forget what it's called, you probably know the term, where people can see things in full color and they can see the spirits and the whole thing. I just kind of see it, and I can feel the energy and I know what I'm looking at. But I definitely felt like this skull was floating over my right shoulder. Okay. And since that time, every time I meet a different crystal skull, which I believe is quite old. Okay. And there's no way to prove that, by the way. We don't have like a technology or something that can say the age of a skull because they're made from inorganic substances. Carbon-14 dating doesn't work. So we will have sensitives who will be in the presence of skulls and they'll get some sensing about, which civilizations may have had it or where did it come from. Like the most famous skull, Mitchell Hedges crystal skull, I definitely believe was in Atlantis. I think I was there in Atlantis when it was there in the temples. And the reason I believe it is because when I saw that skull, weird stuff happened to me too. So it's like, I think if a person is connected to the skulls, which really is their essence and the electromagnetic frequencies of energies that are around them, you start, getting information. You want to have one, you want to work with them, so since 1983, since I met Ami, it's like I just felt like, they're very important and I've got to do something. And I know now that I agreed before I was born that this would be part of the work that I would do here in the world. So everybody knows me as a crystal skull explorer, and that's the term I came up with because, I'm not going to tell you I have all the answers, but it's the exploration of it and sharing what I find, which is, the joyful part of me. It is really an extension of who I am. Like if you ask somebody, Joshua, who you're, I'm an explorer, baby. I'm checking out all these things: UFOs, hollow Earth, flat Earth, Tartaria, everything cool that's going on out there. I'm going to check it out and, but I have to have my direct experience of it. So that seems to be the key. So that I had the chance to meet the actual skull was very significant. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that is. That's very cool.
that's basically how I got started. That's, starting to get a little bit into it. But basically, to boil it all down, is that they're here to help us.
Well,
Okay,
let's
they're
talk
here.
about before we
Yeah.
talk about some of what's behind these skulls. Maybe start with the Mitchell Hedges skull and what was originally so profound and intriguing about these skulls when they were first discovered.
Well, I think the main thing about the crystal skulls was that some of them were very skillfully done. Okay. And we have modern carvers today. I mean, again, if we come back to this particular crystal skull, it's not totally exactly like a human bone skull, but it's very skillfully done.
Right.
And I'm sure that whoever made this skull, which it may be a Chinese carver, I'm not sure, they had probably diamond tip tools they were using to make it so that they could do it in the shape that they wanted to make for the skull. Okay. So it's the same thing like with the Mitchell Hedges skull. It's almost an exact duplicate of a human bone skull. And when I first started in the 80s, a lot of people were saying, we don't have the technology to make such a skull. However, I know some Chinese carvers, and we actually have one of our skulls, which is too big for me to show. It's called Rosalita. So if anybody goes to our website, I have pictures of Rosalita there. It's a rose quartz skull, which uses the measurements of the Mitchell Hedges skull, has a movable jaw. And these carvers were able to make it. But Rosalita didn't have any energy when we received it initially. It's only as we start to work with the crystal skulls that they become awakened and alive. And especially when I was playing a video of the Mitchell Hedges skull, it's like as soon as the skull came, the first thing I did is I turned on the TV and I had a 25-minute interview with Bill Holman, who's the guardian of the Mitchell Hedges skull. And I let the rose quartz skull see that so that it could start receiving those frequencies of energy. And then I put it on a picture of the Mitchell Hedges skull also. So that was kind of how I initially started it. I felt it needed that specific energy. So, in the early time, it was like, how were these skulls made? Who made them? And the whole thing. And even if it's true, they're coming out of ancient ruins, people who are very primitive, so how did they do that? Okay, they didn't have diamond tip tools. Even 100 years ago, they did not have those diamond. It was since the 70s, I think, that they came out with these tools. So the big question initially was, how did they make them? And then we start talking about, well, we think there were more advanced civilizations like Lemuria and Atlantis, and they would have had these advanced technologies, because our world has gone through various resets where, we've had an advanced civilization and then all of a sudden it declined and then it started over. And now supposedly, we're going back into advanced civilization. But that's, of course, if we don't destroy ourselves, because we got a lot of crazy things happening right now. And, it makes a lot of sense to me why the crystal skulls are becoming popular, because they are here to help humanity with the healing energies they have, as well as activating our spiritual gifts. I've watched this happen many times. A person doesn't know much about it, but feels drawn to have an experience. All of a sudden, a gift opens up while they're in the presence of a skull. So it's pretty interesting.
Now, is that what kind of further enhanced the mystery and popularity of these skulls? Is the kind of energy that people would feel and that it could manifest around it?
Well, I think that that's probably one of the keys. When people have that experience, it's like you can never forget it. It changes you. Okay. And it's like, oh, I love that skull. I want to see it again. Or I want to get my own, which of course, that's one of the things we do. We have these amazing Indian carvers who are making crystal skulls for us. And it's like, I can't believe it. Every time we get them in, they go out pretty quickly. So it's a personal experience. And also a person may have an amazing experience with one crystal skull, but feel nothing with another. So, that's why I can't tell people and give them like an absolute answer, that any particular skull they're going to have an experience with it. But I do tell people, if they're looking for their own, look at pictures and see which one resonates with you. Okay. Now, if my wife, Katrina, gets a hold of them, she really brings them to life. And we've had a lot of people who, after they get their skulls, they'll write back, oh, I love the skull. The energy is amazing. But I think that's also true, because this is my theory to explain why are we having communication with skulls. There's some kind of living consciousness, whether it's in an individual consciousness or group consciousness, that's able to work through these stones to have contact with us, which may be why they have these special frequencies of energy. And so I think, like, a lot of times when a person says, oh, I like that skull, well, then this living consciousness or spirit or whatever says, okay, we're going to start coming and working through the skull. So when we come to the new guardian of it, and I use the word guardian because I don't feel like we own them. They choose us. We don't choose them. Then the skull already has that consciousness to start working with that individual. So, this subject, like, I'll give you an example. This is one of my best stories. Let me tell this story. It's really cool. Okay, so for a period of time, I was living in Europe, in Holland, and I got a chance, and I don't remember how this came to be. Somebody invited me to speak to his group in Belgium. So I'm talking about crystal skulls. And I think back in those days, I didn't have, digital slides. I had, the normal slides with the projector and the whole thing. And so I made friends with this one guy, and he said, I want to invite you to my house. We're having a meeting. We use a certain device that's able to measure frequencies of energy. It's called a Leckyer antenna, which most people have never heard of. So the easiest way for me to describe it, it's like a dowsing rod with numbers on it. So in other words, these practitioners know when they're measuring an energy and a certain number comes up, what are they measuring? Okay, and it'll flip by itself. Like a dowsing rod, if it finds something in the ground, it moves by itself. Okay, so this is the same, except it flips when it reaches the energy. So one of our crystal skulls is called Portal de Luz, which is a 10-pound smoky quartz skull made by a master carver in Brazil. And so that was the one that I had. That was actually the first personal skull I received. His name is Portal de Luz, Portal of Light. Portal de Luz is Portuguese or Spanish. And So I had that skull with me, and their teacher was there, and he was looking at the skull and going, you know what? We're going to be wasting our time today. This is a stone. What kind of energy are we going to be able to measure around a stone? And so I didn't say anything. Plus, I couldn't understand what he was saying anyway in his, what are they called? Belgian. They have a name for it. I can't remember. When you get to be 66, you start forgetting things. Okay, it's like Dutch, but they have a different name for their version of it, because the Belgian people don't like the Holland people and so on. They have competition. So anyway, they take Portal de Luz, put him on a table, and they start measuring. And they start measuring that he is emanating the energies of the 5 human senses. And they tell the teacher, that's what the skull's showing us. No, it can't be. Do it again. Do it again. So they did it 2 more times, and he showed the same thing. So he showed the same frequency of energy. So I'm bringing that story up because what I'm trying to say is, if the skull is activated, if it has this living consciousness working through it, it's going to do amazing things. There's going to be amazing energy around it. Okay. It's not just going to be a stone that's lifeless. Okay. Because when I work with my skulls, I can hear them telepathically. They talk to me in my mind's thinking voice. That's how I hear them. Okay. The one I showed you, he's not too active. Portal de Luz would be talking my head off if he was here while I'm talking with you. So that's why I didn't pick him, because I want to focus, to tell my stories. And I don't want him telling me, hey, Dad, that's what he calls me. Dad, why don't you talk about this or that or whatever, so that's why he's not by me.
Very
so
interesting.
So that's kind of my take on it. That's my conclusion based on meeting who knows how many hundreds or thousands of skulls since 1983.
And you said earlier that it's kind of impossible to tell the age of these skulls, except for, certain individuals that may have intuitively, communicated with these things. What are your thoughts on how old that some of these skulls could possibly be?
Okay, well, first let me talk about the different kinds, because you're asking me about the ancient one.
Sure.
So the one I showed you is a contemporary one made by a Brazilian carver. So we know how it was made, diamond tip tools. Okay. Then there are what are called old crystal skulls, which I would say the one in the British Museum would be an example of that. They're not as sophisticatedly done, but they could have been done several hundred years ago. And when I've talked to carvers, they tell me that there are families of carvers who have had secret techniques for carving things in very precise manner that they don't share with people. So this would be, outside the modern time with diamond tip tools. So those are called old crystal skulls, and they tend to look not so sophisticated, more primitive, but yet there are a lot of those. So the old crystal skulls would be from 100 years ago, and this is my definition, to maybe about 2,000 years ago. Okay, then we have what are called the ancient ones, or I call them very old, because people get carried away. Oh, I got to have an ancient one. And then gullible people get taken advantage of, like on eBay, and where they say, oh, this is a very ancient one, and it's made by modern carvers. So the only way to know is through somebody who's sensitive to the energy. Like if a spiritual medium or a very good sensitive set next to the object, they may pick up on the frequencies of energies and give its entire history. And so, the history goes back to possibly made in Atlantis and Lemuria, gifts from the gods, which would be ETs brought the skulls down here, made by lasers, all kinds of different things. Now, how old could those very old crystal skulls be? Well, they could be thousands of years. They could be 100,000 years. They could be 1,000,000 years. We don't really know, okay, because we don't have a way to deal with it. But I think what's the most important, what I always look at is, and this is also what the skulls, the collective consciousness of the skulls tell me, is that is the individual skull that we're speaking about, is it being of benefit to humanity? Does it have healing energies? Is it expanding people around it? Because I know, and I've seen some skulls in Mexico which did not have nice energies around it. I think they were misused, maybe by the Mayans or the Aztecs, used in sacrifices. And there was one in Mexico I met that actually got me very sick. And being an Aries, I never like to admit I have any weaknesses, okay? But in that instance, it just overwhelmed me, and I had to have a healer help me to balance my energy, because the energy around Mexico City is crazy anyway. I mean, they have all these UFOs showing up in the sky. They have these amazing ancient Mayan cities. Teotihuacan, I believe, is the one that we visited when we were attending a conference there. And I stepped on one of those pyramids, and I'm going to tell you, and that's the only pyramid I've ever been on. There's no way. It's like Tartaria with their buildings. There's no way that primitive Mayans made this pyramid. It was so huge. The stone was unbelievable. You know, I could just feel the amazing energy from it. There was no way that a primitive people had slaves, you know, bringing stone. This had to be levitation to bring these stones. And where did they come from? Huge, totally huge. So, you know, so we don't really know how old the very old ones are. We also have debates about which ones are very old. But the skulls tell me it's irrelevant. When they're together, they don't care if one's been around for 1,000,000 years or for 1 year. They celebrate amongst themselves, and they're all here to work together to help humanity to awaken to who we truly are, which is divine children of Creator. And so this is part of the reason why we're having a lot of conflict going on right now, is the groups that think they control the world want to stop people from waking up to who they truly are. And the crystal skulls is a tool to help to do this. So this is the reason why I'm a very big proponent of them, because I know they have this capability. And it's amazing as you travel and you see people responding to the energies of the skulls, to watch the wide range of experiences that people are having. It's like, you know, it's almost magical. You know, it's like being in a movie, a magical movie, a sci-fi movie, a fantasy movie. But these things are really happening. And it's in a way, it's a sign of the future, because I am a big proponent, regardless of what's happening now. I've had 2 major experiences, which I put in one of my free ebooks, which, by the way, for all of your listeners, there are 5 free ebooks I want to send you. Ask me for them. Crystal skulls. Are we in a computer simulated world? Tartaria. What else did I write about? Oh, these messages, these experiences about the future that I had. And I have one other one, which will come to me later. I'm losing track. I'm working on the 6th one now, which we'll be talking about later. So it's like, you know, Spirit is really using me and saying, well, while you're sitting around and not able to travel, do your lecture, we have a job for you. Write these free ebooks, get this information out. So, you know, a lot of things, a lot of really interesting things are going on around the skulls.
Now, it wasn't until in recent years when the skulls started being associated with extraterrestrials. Now, is this also because of the messages and intuitions that people are getting from the skulls?
Well, I think it's yeah, I believe you're right. I'm trying to remember how it came out. For the most part, a lot of the sensitives who have sat with the skulls, they've gotten visions of like spacecraft being around them, of alien beings gifting them to people. I had a vision with a mold of the Mitchell Hedges skull that I was allowed to keep for a couple of months. I was in Brazil, and I was sitting at a table. I was attending a UFO group there, and I had the skull, and there was a young girl across from me. So this is my personal experience. And what I saw, and I don't know why this happened, but I saw like a spaceship and beings sitting at a similar table on the spacecraft with crystal skulls, and was given the impression that the crystal skulls here on Earth are sending information and visuals, like they're working like a video camera, to the skulls that are on board the spacecraft like they're like an internet, if you will, an internet of crystal skulls all talking to each other. So um, I think that, one of the explanations for the very advanced skulls that we found, which we think are ancient or very old, is they were gifts from the gods, which is what the Mayans talk about. They say the crystal skulls were gifts from the grandfather of the Pleiades. So it could be, that, and this is what I believe. I believe, of course, like with humanity, we have good people and bad people. There's the same with the extraterrestrials. They're warlike races and they're peaceful races. But I think the peaceful one said, what kind of tool could we give to humanity that could help them to, awaken and go into ascension and go into a higher state of being? And so I think they decided to use crystal skulls as one of those tools. So the indigenous people, like from Mexico and Central America, they seem to have this connection with extraterrestrials, and it seems to be linked to the crystal skulls. So either they brought them here or they taught civilizations in the past how to make them, you know. But the other key that comes up, like in the Mitchell Hedges skull, the co-authors of my book, Mystery of the Crystal Skulls, reveal Nasarino and Bowen. They went to Canada when the Mitchell Hedges skull was there, and they were activating holographic images inside, and they saw spacecraft appearing. So does that mean that, there was extraterrestrials and spacecraft around the skull, or they brought them? I don't know, but there seems to be a connection. This seems to be one of the theories about where maybe some of the most powerful crystal skulls, or dare I say the original 13 skulls, which is a legend that people talk about, maybe they were the gifts of the gods and the gods are the extraterrestrials. Okay, because primitive people would look at them and say they're so advanced they have to be gods. But now, with the advanced technologies we have and all our science fiction and everything, we know that there are other galactic beings which have advanced technologies. We can understand that. And probably, like the Roswell crash, the day after Roswell, I can't remember the name of the person who wrote that book, but was saying that a lot of our modern technology we have now, even the equipment we're using now, was a result of what they received from that spaceship that crashed in Roswell, New Mexico, which is now what, 77, more than 77 years ago or something like that. So, so extraterrestrials have affected and are affecting our civilization now, and they have in the past. And it's, crazy to think we're the only intelligent beings that exist in God's infinite universe. Impossible.
Yeah, I agree. Now, could you talk a little bit more about the different types of either messages or feelings or intuitions that people are getting? Say, if two different people handled one skull, could it give them each completely different energies or messages?
Yeah, that's normally what happens. The best way I could describe it, especially the Mitchell Hedges skull, I think it does it, is it instantaneously links into the electromagnetic energy and essence of the individual, and then it sends out something back which is appropriate for that person. So if another person is standing there, they're going to have a totally different experience because they're a completely different electromagnetic frequency. No two of us are exactly the same. Even if you're a twin or a triplet or whatever, you're going to have a lot of similar things, but still there's going to be a unique soul that's going to be connected. So we're all unique. Even if we met in a parallel Earth, like Sliders, the TV show Sliders showed us, which I know is true also, that individual is not going to be completely the same because they had different experiences and so on. So we're each a unique note in God's infinite symphony. So that's the reason why, and I've seen this happen with the Mitchell Hedges skull, where I watched two people and they had totally different experiences.
What are some of the locations that these skulls were most commonly found in? Yeah, you mentioned Mexico, South America. What are some of the other most common areas these were found?
Well, the first ones definitely came out of Central America and Mexico. There are some I've seen coming out of South America. As a matter of fact, I have a memory of being in Atlantis when it was destroyed and going upon a levitation ship and bringing possibly one or more crystal skulls to South America because I knew it would be a safe area for it into the future. Which gets into, another whole different story about a blue skull that I keep seeing. You need to talk to that fly and tell it that it's not welcome. I see it's
Yeah, I'm
kind of
trying.
bothering
He's bugging me, but I'll get him.
either. All right, either that or he's feeling all the energy in our conversation. But as far as other places, there was some elder from the original people in Australia. They don't like to be called Aboriginal. They say original people. That was talking about they knew about crystal skulls. So I think that there were crystal skulls literally all over the planet. And then over time, they've been brought to like different cultures and different people. Like, let's say they were in Atlantis and the priests there knew that Atlantis was going to be destroyed. So they brought some skulls to South America, to Mexico, probably to the United States. Maybe they brought some skulls to Egypt, Africa, Asia, all over the world. So there have been reports, of skulls coming out of Europe, but whether they originated there or not, I don't know. Mongolia, there's been skulls. Tibet, Nepal, all different kind of different places. So I think if we really had the ability to know the true history of the crystal skulls, we would see that they were probably found all over the world, or they've been to all different parts of the world.
Do you think that eventually we're going to learn more from either modern academia or science about these skulls? Do you see any, I guess, any other researchers looking into this besides the independent researchers like yourself that could possibly bring more information to the subject?
Well, to be honest, no, I don't. And this is the main reason why, is there's too many strange phenomena that go on around the crystal skull that would have a tendency to refute so-called theories of reality that archaeologists have or scientists have. They may destroy the history that we've been taught in school. They may destroy physics. There's just too many strange things going on. There was one famous archaeologist that I had a chance to meet one time. So I use his story as an example, that he met the Mitchell Hedges skull and he was totally fascinated by it. And he said, Joshua, I really honor you. You have great courage to come out and talk about this. If I was to talk about what happened to me, so many people in my profession would think very ill of me and it would affect my reputation. Okay, so I can't say anything. I can tell you, okay, because you understand this. But if I told other people that work in my area, no. So unless a scientist or archaeologist has a paranormal orientation and believes in such, I don't see any way how they would want to be involved in this at all. Because it's going to prove a lot of things which we intuitively think is true. Okay, and right now we have cancel culture going on, and I haven't seen anything happen to me because crystal skulls is not that challenging of a subject, and it's kind of on the fringe. Okay, right. And it's not the key areas that people are challenging right now, like with the pandemic and the vaccine and all these other things. So I haven't seen it, but I know that it's been very difficult to find really true professional people to do that. So it's like, I've had a chance to work with all kinds of different electronic machines to look at how the energy of the skull is affecting people. And we've seen that, if the skull is activated, it's doing it consistently. The most impressive test I did was what I would call a meridian stress test system, which here in the United States, the last time I talked to someone who has it, it can be used, but it's not allowed to be used to diagnose a person, but they use it for that in Europe because it's extremely accurate. It's able to look at the meridians in the body, and the body doesn't lie what its condition is. So we use this device where it had a computer and electrode, and it would touch the different meridians on the hands or the feet. And there was a group of healers that we worked with in Holland, I think like 15 or 20, and the crystal skull, which was Portal de Luz, was able to show an increase in their energies, except for one healer who was so balanced, it didn't make any difference, okay? But the rest of them, we were even able to see a little bit of an improvement from being in a neutral state and then putting the skull in their presence and then measuring their frequencies again. Now, there's one interesting story I'll tell you from Holland on the meridian stress test system. It's not crystal skull. It has to do with crop circles, which, by the way, I've been in crop circles with the skulls, and those experiences are pretty cool as well. But this one was a crop circle researcher, Robert Borman, that we met, who took us to crop circles in Holland, where we brought our crystal skulls with us. But he showed us this material they found in one crop circle, and we put it on. There's a metal plate that you put the object on that you want to see how the person's responding to it. So he put this white substance found in the crop circle on the metal plate, and we were working with it. It totally blew out the computer, okay? The program that was using it, as soon as it linked in, it started passing energies into the computer. And I think the person told me they tried it 2 or 3 times, and every time the computer got totally blown out and all the data was erased.
Wow.
So if you have a meridian stress test system, please do not put any materials from crop circles on that testing plate, or your computer is bye-bye.
Wow, that is very interesting. I do want to get into what you wrote in your email about. Now, I want to preface it with a little bit about the way I feel about the subject. Now, when you're talking about flat Earth or the shape of our planet, I have never done a show on this just because it's a divisive topic. People get touchy about it. People will lose friends because of this subject. I've seen it happen before, and I don't really look into it that much. I have mainly been of the view that our planet is round and we have other planets around us, but the past couple of years I've become extremely open-minded and mistrustful of our historical information and NASA and a lot of institutions that have been lying to us for years. So, of course, I'm more open-minded about what our reality could be. What is the shape of our planet? Can we go to space? Is the space what they're telling us? What is really going on here? And you claim to have some information that you've come across that could change people's view on things if we really start looking into this, and I'd really love to hear about that.
Okay, so I'm going to echo your same words. If you don't want to hear about this, then stop listening to this interview, okay? Because there is a test that you can do that will show you that the Earth is flat, okay? It's not such a difficult thing to do, all right? So I'm going to start with this test. Okay, so this is what we were told in school. The Earth is a globe. What do they call it? The circumference at the equator, 25,000 miles around. I think it's a little bit less than that. It's rotating. It's rotating around the sun. Our entire solar system is also moving. And then I think we're also moving to around they call it the central part of the universe.
The galactic center, yeah.
Yeah. So we have 4 motions, which are the Earth is rotating 1,000 miles per hour around the sun. I think it's like 66,000 miles per hour. 500,000, our solar system's moving, and the other movement is like over 1 million. So the first clue is, and then they say that, gravity is holding us to the planet. And because gravity's holding us, we don't feel these motions. But the problem is they're also saying gravity is what is keeping the Earth orbiting around the sun too. Now, orbiting around the sun and a gravity holding us to the Earth are two different energies. They're not the same energy. So how's gravity doing? So here's the experiment you can do. Okay, so this doesn't include all the pilots who will tell you when they're flying, the horizon is level, it's not curved. Okay. This doesn't include the people sending up personal balloons with a camera and looking at the horizon and its level. So if you were to go to a beach, let's say, all right, now this is from Pythagorean theorem. If the Earth is 2,500 miles in diameter, there is a calculation, and the calculation is for every mile that you travel forward due to the curvature of the Earth, it'll be 8 inches times the number of miles squared. So in other words, if you go 1 mile, then the curve of the Earth is going to bring the objects directly ahead of you down 8 inches. If you go 2 miles, okay, that's going to be 2 squared, which is 4 times 8, that'll be 32 inches, right? Etc. So there was this man in the 1800s who wanted to show this, and I think his name was Bramford. By the way, I'm doing a free ebook, so I'm going to have a much more comprehensive description of all this. So what Bramford did is there was this channel, a canal in England that went straight 6 miles, okay? So if we do this calculation, 6 miles squared is 36 times 8. So that's going to be 288 inches, which will be like about 20 some feet, okay? So what he did is at the end of the channel was a structure, okay? And he had a boat go down the channel with a flag that was, I think, 8 feet tall, and he had a telescope. Okay, so based upon Pythagorean theorem, the person looking at the telescope should not be able to see that boat with that flag going 6 miles down, because the curvature of the Earth would put it out of view, right? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do understand, yes.
Okay, however, the person with the telescope was able to see very clearly the boat with the flag being straight on. All right, so if you go to a beach, okay, and you see a boat and it's going far into the distance, all right, and it goes out of, they call it a vanishing point. When it goes to a certain point, you can't see it. If you use one of our advanced cameras right now, which have a very high ability, you know, a focus like 20 times, 40 times, whatever, you can go and see that boat and it'll be directly straight ahead, okay? So why I'm bringing this up is the first aspect of the flat Earth is that we are living on a flat surface, a flat circular disc. Okay, so this is what they're talking about. Now, I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah. Now, airplanes. Okay, let's go back to the airplanes. Besides, when they fly up, seeing a level horizon. Okay, do they deviate? Do they have to do something because of the Earth is supposed to be spinning? That's called the Coriolis. Can't remember the name. Coriolis effect, I believe.
Yes, that's it.
Coriolis effect. So in other words, if the Earth is spinning, then the plane has to worry about 2 things. Number one, well, again, this is very interesting. They have to worry about, you know, do they have to make adjustments for flying, right? And then the other thing, if the Earth is curved, they got to be flying downwards, right? So you talk to the pilots. Okay, so you're going from San Francisco to New York and you're flying. Do you have to make any adjustments to your flight? No, absolutely not. We just fly straight there. Well, you can't. How can you do that? The Coriolis effect, you have to compensate for that, and you would have to fly down. Now, here's the other thing. If the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour, right? And your plane only goes 600 miles an hour, and the Earth is going in an easterly direction, I believe is the spin, from east to west, okay? And say you're coming back to New York, all right, if I'm correct about that. You have to let the Earth rotate because you'll never get there. In other words, if you're going 600 miles an hour and the Earth is rotating 1,000 miles an hour, you can't move forward. And they're not compensating for that. Okay, so these are things that people don't think about or they don't look at. All right.
Yeah, I've heard these before, and it's very interesting. I have not heard any counters to them yet. Astronomers, astrologers, anybody interested in science, please come up with some comments about what Mr. Shapiro just said, because I've heard this before, and I haven't heard any rebuttals about. I haven't heard any reasoning why the pilots don't have to account for this, the gravity and the spin of the Earth, and why you can see a boat so far on a horizon with a very advanced camera if you're not supposed to after a certain amount of miles. These questions I haven't gotten answers to yet, and I'd love to. If someone has those answers, I'm not, I am in the middle of the road on this. I have no idea what shape our planet is. To me, we're living in a simulation. It's all a simulation. I have no idea.
Right.
But, if it is flat or some other shape than round, we need to know. And if it's round, just, prove it to us. Just back it up, back up what NASA has been saying for years and what we've learned in our history books, just to prove it, because there's no real proof of anything. Every picture that comes from NASA is fake. It's not a real picture of space, at least most of them, and the ones that they are saying, the quality is extremely terrible for the advanced technology that we have, and I don't understand what they're showing us oftentimes. But I know a lot of it has been proven faked, and there's no excuses for that. So, yeah, continue. Is there anything else that we can add to this?
Oh, we don't want to talk about NASA, that's for sure.
Right, yeah.
Because I saw some videos where they showed the blue marble that they created. It got photoshopped. They showed the same cloud patterns just being put all over the picture. And also the other thing I remember I saw, and I actually have this video on Facebook where they show the moon landing. You can't land on the moon. There was a scientist who came out in '65, R. Foster, a professor, and said the moon is plasma. You can never land on it. So I have a video on my webpage where one of the Apollo astronauts is coming down to land on the moon, and some lights fall on him. Like this ray of light just comes into him.
So what are your thoughts on what this actually is? Is this some kind of just realm? And what are the planets? What are we seeing out there?
Okay, so I'll just say some more things about it, but not try to prove it. All right. So the sun and the moon are the same size, and they are only 3,000 or 4,000 miles above the Earth. Okay. I'm going to be talking tomorrow to kind of a scientist who did an experiment that will prove the sun is not 93 million miles away, but it is very, very close. And another person that I'm transcribing his video says that the actual sun is outside of the Earth. The Earth has a dome that surrounds it. So that's another whole story. So in other words, the whole structure of the flat Earth has nothing to do with anything that we were taught in school. According to it, the sun is close. It's not far. We're not orbiting around the sun. The sun is circling the flat Earth, which is not rotating. I have seen documents from airline pilots, from NASA, and from the CIA that these flat earthers were able to grab, and they showed them on their videos, and it all says flat Earth non-rotating. That's in those documents. Okay. What else can I tell you that's interesting about this?
Well, let me ask you this:
Go ahead.
Why do you think is the big lie? Why do you think they're hiding the fact if the Earth is flat? Why would they hide that from us? What's the big deal?
Well, why are they not telling us about Tartaria? Why are they lying about the vaccines? Why is the fake news not covering the audit in Arizona? It's the same thing. By the sharing of the truth about the Earth, in effect, they lose their power over us, whatever it is, spiritual, UFOs, contact with aliens, advanced civilizations in the past, where spiritual beings, it's all around the same issue of not empowering people. Okay, like for example, I believe the Tartarians understood that we had the flat Earth, and they were able to go up into the sky. There's a layer of water up there. Even the Bible says, it talks about the water above and below in the firmament. Our own Bible is talking about this. I was amazed. And they were able to tap into what's called the ether and bring those frequencies of energies down into the earth through these advanced buildings they had. And they had free energy everywhere. Everybody had free energy. So the world, essentially, to understand the earth, you have to understand what plasma is, what an electromagnetic frequency is, because the whole world seems to be built around this. And we also are, electromagnetic in nature beings, our soul, everything. Electromagnetic is the key to understanding the whole universe. As far as if there's any space, one of the flat earthers said, no, there is no space. I'm thinking it's more like how Star Trek Voyager showed these aliens coming from fluid space. I think it's more fluid, because water seems to be a real big key for the earth. Water is very important for the earth. So the key for any listeners who haven't turned us off, that are still here with us listening, is you have to do your own research. Definitely. And I'm hoping, today is August 16th. I'm hoping by the beginning of September, I'll have my free ebook done. I mean, I'm the type of person, I'm going to talk about all the different kind of theories I'm finding and proof and evidence, and I'll have a ton of videos for people to watch and just let people make their own mind. But the key, what I think is happening right now, is the truth about our world, our structure of our world, our history, who we are. All of that is coming out right now. And the key is, for those of us who are spiritual or light workers or whatever you want to call yourself, we're going to have to help a lot of our friends and family, because they're going to be in shock when all this stuff starts coming out, including what's been going on behind the scenes. Is going to start coming out too. And really, from the visions I've had, the two visions I've had of the future I see, 2037 to 2040, we are going to have a golden age and total peace, and all this information is going to be known. Galactics are going to be walking amongst us, and it's going to be a time of total joy and peace and happiness and freedom to do all the things you want. So what I say to people in my interviews is, visualize this peaceful world that's coming. Don't listen to the news. Don't let the news create more fear and panic and get you worried. Just go day by day and know, because I talked to a friend who channeled a Pleiadian, and I asked him this question. We were talking about flat earth, and they confirmed it. I said, is divine intervention coming to help our world? And the Pleiadian said, yes, you are going to see divine intervention. So I know it's God's will that our world, our realm, whatever you want to call it, I can't call it a planet anymore, because planet actually in Greek was first defined as wandering stars. Now, last thing I want to tell you is, if you have a good telescope and you try to look for the planets, you will not see a physical globe surrounding the earth. You will watch a dancing light in the sky. And there's videos that show that too, like Venus or Mars. They are not solid physical objects. They are wandering stars. They have lights, and they are emanating geometric patterns, like what is talked about in cymatics, which is what the Tartarians also apparently. So this is totally amazing. It's going to rock everybody if you really get into this. They explain everything, how the sun rises and sets, and all of it is explained. Even gravity is explained totally differently. It's more about density. The thing, like, we are denser than the air, so that's why we stay on the ground. But if you're a helium balloon, you're going to go rise into the ground. Okay, so all of these things are completely explained through what we call the flat Earth model. So I've seen enough that I have to say, I started the ebook. I wouldn't say I was a total believer, but now I am, because the evidence and the tests and the things that the people who've been involved in this since 2014 is really when it started taking off, is what they told me. It's just amazing. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And like I said earlier, I'm on the fence about all this. I definitely don't believe what's coming from the mainstream narrative. I will not at this time claim to have any idea what the shape of the earth is, but I'm questioning everything. I like to gather all the evidence and have guests like yourself to present their side of the evidence, so the audience and myself can do our own research and kind of come to conclusions for ourselves. But I know, like you said, like I've said many a times, we're being lied to all around us, and we have to question question everything. If we don't, we're never going to learn anything. So that's the only way to get by. And Joshua, man, that was fantastic information. I'd love to have you back on after your ebook gets out so we can get a little deeper into that.
That would be fine. So again, if you want to get any of the free ebooks, the easiest way is to email me, which is crystalskullexplorers@gmail.com, and just say, you're interested in the free ebooks. Let me see if I can find out the fifth one. So again, it's Crystal Skulls, Are We in a Computer Simulation, Tartaria, my two personal experience. Oh yeah, the last one, again, it's going to be really hard to read. It's about what's really going on right now, both the light and the dark of what's happening. I finally put together in May a book about that. And then the sixth one that'll hopefully be out by next month will be on flat Earth. And I think that one's going to be over 100 pages. I mean, it's like every time I turn around, there's another new video I never watched on it. And so many people that are talking about this. This is not like just a few people that are whispering to each other. There's a major movement around. They've had conferences now, since 2017. And I have interviewed one of the first people that came out about this and, started to get popular. And I've talked to another person who's very involved in it. So, and I'm glad that I talked to my friends. So the Pleiadians, and they had a lot to say about this. And they were basically confirming everything I've told you, not only for our world, but their world as well, that this system exists for many different galactic civilizations. It's not just the Earth. So it's really interesting. So it's kind of, I don't want to say this, but it's the only way I know how to say it. We're kind of in a petri dish. We have a self-contained environment here. So if they show you anything about going into outer space or whatever, it's a lie. It's a green screen and they're under the water. They had one video where there are air bubbles. And they were asked at a conference, why are we seeing these air bubbles in space? That should be impossible. No, those weren't air bubbles, and they gave some other excuse. It's because they were underwater and they green screened the Earth behind them to make it look like they were outside. So,
yeah, I've seen plenty of screwy stuff like that from NASA and the institutions.
Right. So you have to go with your own intuition, and it boils down to this. Do you want to know the truth of what's going on, or do you want to stay where you are with what you were taught? I think your approach is just be open. It's like with the crystal skulls. I had no interest in it. All of a sudden I meet me, and now I'm the Crystal Skull Explorer. So you just don't know what life is going to present to you.
That's right.
But I like the journey. I think we have a great journey ahead of us. And even though there's a lot of not so nice things that are happening right now, it's going to work itself out. Divine intervention is going to come. My future self, who is myself in this lifetime, 2037 to 2040, we're going into a golden age. So be ready for that. And then I have no idea what the challenges will be when hunger is gone and there's no more conflict, and we can hug the galactic visitors and we can go visit their world. It's going to be absolutely amazing. And the world, our Earth has had such histories of this before. It's just a return back to normal. It's back to normal.
Yeah, Joshua, I really hope you're right about that, and I would look forward to that so much. And I want to thank you again for coming on the show tonight. Fantastic information. I will definitely be in touch. We'll have you back on after your new ebook comes out. And thank you again. Have a great evening.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. A pleasure to be here. I had a lot of fun. You're a great host.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Joshua. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening, and we'll definitely talk again tomorrow.